G'day guys, welcome to this episode of Aussie English. Man, do I have a killer episode for you guys today. So, I don't know if you've seen it in the previous episode, but I've chatted to Lorena from Go Study Australia in a previous interview. And this episode was 338, so make sure that you go back and check that out if you would like to hear more from Lorena after this interview. But today I've got her. She's from Go Study Australia, which is a company that helps English students that have come to Australia to learn English. This company helps them find jobs, find accommodation, find really decent schools, even get flights from some countries here at a discount. So they're a free service, guys. I really recommend Go Study Australia if you guys need any kind of advice or help, whether you're already in Australia learning English or you're thinking about coming here. So Go Study Australia. Definitely recommend checking them out. Anyway, as it's probably obvious, today I chat with Lorena about effectively a step-by-step guide to moving to Australia to study English. So I set this up by saying, imagine I am a foreign English learner from, say, Spain. What do I need to do? What is the step-by-step process that I need to go through in order to get to Australia, in order to get established in Australia, to find somewhere to live, to find a school, to get a job, to get food, to find friends, to socialize. So anyway, it is a great interview. Massive thanks to Lorena for spending about an hour chatting to me on Skype. I really appreciated her time, and I know that you guys are going to get a lot out of this. So without any further ado, guys, here is Lorena from Go Study Australia. G'day guys, welcome to this episode of Aussie English. I have Lorena back again. Hopefully you saw the first episode with Lorena, and if you haven't, it's episode 338. And there's also a video on YouTube called How to Study English in Australia, Go Study Australia. So Lorena, welcome back. How are you going?
Good, thank you.
So I guess let's start up. What is Go Study Australia? And give us a bit of your backstory again. How did you end up living in Australia, working for this awesome company that's helping people with their studying of English in Australia?
Yeah, sure. So I've been working for Go Study for 5 years. I started in Madrid, and we, when I say we, my partner and I got offered this opportunity to come to Australia 2.5 years ago, and to come to the Melbourne office. So I started in Madrid. What we did there was help and guide students through their journey coming towards Australia. And here in Melbourne, what we do is more of reception. So Go Study Australia is an agency or student organization that gives help to students and working holiday visa makers who come to Australia. We primarily help in the sector of studying, so English courses or vocational training or bachelor degrees. And the other part of our role or job is to guide students who are in Australia. We do a lot of events, activities, sort of give them support while they are here in Melbourne. We also have offices in Sydney and in Perth and in Brisbane, so sort of give the all-round support while they're here in Australia.
Oh, brilliant. And so I guess, how do people find you? First off, we should just get that out of the way. Is it a cheeky Google search, or can they come and see you at your office?
So our doors are always open. They can obviously write to us through our website or through our social media. If they Google Go Study Australia, they'll definitely find us. In the offices that we have here in Australia, we always have our doors open, so students can just come in. And we have a lot of walk-ins of people that just need a little bit of help, either finding a job or finding the right course for them, or even just a little bit of help in terms of finding their way around Australia. So they can always just come to our office whenever they want.
Oh, brilliant. And is this students or I guess people in Australia from any other countries? It doesn't matter where, or are they from certain countries that you guys cater for specifically?
So our main catering, let's say, is just for European countries and Latin American countries. We recently opened offices in Bogota and Medellin in Colombia. So hopefully we'll start catering to that area as well.
Man, that's a huge market, huh? There's a lot of Colombians going to Australia,
especially in Melbourne. So hopefully we'll do a good job of giving them a little bit of support. But we don't. I mean, anyone can really just come in. Although our experience, just in terms of visas, our experience is more towards Latin America and Europe. Other countries have variations and the visas are a little bit different, so might not be the best agency for them.
So if we just imagine me now being someone who's living in Spain, Italy, France, or South America, and I'm really, really keen to learn English abroad, why would you suggest Australia?
So Australia has a lot of good things compared to other English-speaking countries. One of the best things is the work opportunities. Other English-speaking countries don't have as many opportunities in terms of jobs. So, for example, student visas for US don't come with working rights. Yeah, so you go, you work, you study, but you can't work. Canada has, I'm not really sure, but there's a limit. So there's I think up to the first 6 months you can't work, and Australia is one of the only countries that lets students actually be able to work part-time while they're doing their studies. Another great thing about Australia, obviously, is that because it's so far away from everything else, there's not a lot of people from your own nationality.
For now, right?
For now, yes. And that is good, because when you're looking for a school or a place to learn English, you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you're surrounded by your own nationality and your own language. That's the only way that you can really make forward with the language.
Oh, crazy. And so what would be the next step? So imagine that I am in Spain. I've decided, you know what, I want to learn English overseas. I want to come to Australia. What is the next step for me to then do with regards to making that dream come true or happen?
So there's various ways that people can come to Australia. The one that is the most used is the student visa. So in order to come to Australia with a student visa, the first thing, obviously, that you have to take is in consideration is grabbing a course. So that's where any of our offices, offshore, onshore, will be able to give a little bit of insight to the student, depending on what you want to study, English, vocational courses, higher education. Once you've chosen the course, the next steps are doing a little bit of paperwork, in which we'll obviously lend a hand and do the actual visa. Once the visa is granted, then the student can come into Australia. So that's sort of the most used visa. Will be the student visa. And
so obviously you can do this all on your own. You can get online, you can find the school, you can coordinate with them, then you can go and organize your visa. But you guys kind of are the shortcut if you want to make life easier for yourself. They can get in touch with companies like Go Study Australia in order to sort of get a little bit of hand holding so that they don't, have to do it all on their own.
Exactly. Yeah. In terms of pricing, all of the courses will cost exactly the same, whether you do it by yourself or if you do it through us. That's a misconception. A lot of times people think, if I do it with an agency, that means that I'll be charged something. No. actually, we don't charge anything to our students. Whether you do it by yourself and you do it everything through directly to the school or through the agency, everything will be
the same fee, right? Yeah. So you're paying a set fee to the school, and then you guys, as Go Study Australia, any money you receive isn't from the students themselves, but from the schools or from other organizations, right?
Exactly. So everything will be exactly the same.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Can you hear the student coming in? No.
A little bit, but it's fine. It doesn't matter. I can hear you clearly. Yeah.
Okay. In terms of pricing, everything is exactly the same, with the added value, obviously, that when you go with an organization like Go Study, you obviously get the added bonus. The school, usually when you do things directly with the school will obviously help you with the paperwork of the enrollment in the school, but they won't be able to give you any support with the visa. So that's where a lot of people actually find themselves in a little bit of a pickle. They'll go directly to the school, do everything because they think that it's going to be cheaper, do everything through the school.
Yeah.
And then the moment comes when they go into the immigration page, try to do the visa, and they get a little bit stuck. So it's always better, right, to have that added support from an agency, not only for the visa, but also throughout the entire journey. So you assure yourself of obviously getting support throughout the entire time, not just for the visa, but through the entire time that you're in Australia.
Oh, brilliant.
Good.
All right. So where were we? All right. So yeah, there's obviously no excuse not to be using an agency like Go Study Australia because it's free. And so what happens though if someone comes to you for help and they don't actually end up getting through the process of getting a school and everything, is that still free or?
So yeah, all of our services are free. We're never going to charge students. So legally speaking, we are only able to lend a hand to, in terms of visa, to students that come through, that do the schooling through us.
Yeah.
When students have done the entire visa process, or not the visa process, but the school process by themselves, and we've had that situation, right? So somebody goes to the school, does everything by themselves, then comes to the office. More than likely, we will be able to obviously lend a hand. We won't be able to be as involved in the actual visa process as we would to one of our students.
Yeah.
But we would be able to sort of push them in the right direction. In terms of all of the other services, our parties, our seminars, our information sessions, all of that is open to anyone, whether they're our students or not.
So that they can use that as a learning experience, whether or not they're actually going to use this. Oh, brilliant. Oh, brilliant. And so what would be the next step then? You're a young man living in Spain. You've decided you want to come to Australia. You've gone through Go Study. You've found an English school, I take it. How do you guys pair up someone with the right English school? And is there any advice there for how to find an English school that suits you, or is any school okay?
So the short answer is no, not all schools are okay. So there's a lot of different things that one needs to take into account. The first thing, obviously, is we try to pair the student with the right school in terms of quality and in terms of price. And so different schools will have different pricing. There's a certain line of quality that Go Study Australia does not go under. So we try to work with schools that have passed our quality standard seal, let's say. There's obviously in terms of that's why you ask an agency to guide you through the process, because we have the experience of letting you know which are the schools that actually are vouched for and which not. The other thing that we do apart from the quality is obviously matching what the student is willing to pay for the experience with the pricing of the school. So the first thing that we do is, so this would happen once we're trying to find the correct school for the student. We'll ask obviously what kind of experience they want to do, what their goal is in Australia. what are they looking for in the end? So, and how much time they want to be here for. Let's say that they want to be for 6 months and study English. Then we'll offer, usually what we do is we offer 3-4 different schools depending on, what they have been telling us that they're looking for, and try to match the student with the school. There's a lot of schools in Australia.
Yep.
So we'll never offer you all of the schools just because otherwise we'll make the student go crazy. So we try to, we'll try to find, 2 or 3 schools that might match, and go from there.
And so what's the price range usually? What are the options? What is the lowest sort of threshold and what does it offer versus the highest part of that threshold as well?
So in terms of English, the more or less the price that we're talking about is between $200 and $270 per week.
Okay.
$200 per week usually are schools that offer night classes.
Yep.
And are usually less populated, let's say. 250, 270 are usually morning classes. Again, it depends. Usually schools also offer a lot of different promotions. So at a certain point, a school may cost usually $270, but they're doing a promotion in which if you buy 10 weeks, you'll get 2 for free. So we also try to work around those promotions to make sure that students can also get a good value out of what they're looking for.
Oh, brilliant. And what do these schools usually offer in terms of classes and hours? So if someone wants to study in Australia and they sign up with a school, is that, 8 hours a day every single day? Is it 1 hour a day every single day? What are the expectations the students should have with regards to studying English?
So student visa for international students will require the student to actually study 20 hours per week minimum.
Okay.
And they will have to attend 80% of the school, or the classes. Otherwise, they'll be reported to immigration. So their, stay in Australia is based exclusively on their compliance with the laws of the school. Right? So usually schools will be between 20 and 25 hours per week, minimum obviously being the 20 hours per week that they have to attend.
Yep.
It'll be between 4 and 5 hours per day. And they will have to attend the 80% of the classes. There's different kinds of courses. So the most general course will be general English. It'll touch a little bit of everything, a little bit of pronunciation, a little bit of speaking, writing. Usually general English courses are better viewed for students that don't have a lot of level of English. And then you go into more profound courses like IELTS preparation or Cambridge preparation, which prepares the students to actually take the official exam. Those courses usually are a little bit more intense, and will give a little bit more work to the student.
Yeah. And so is there a minimum level in English that you must have in order to be that young man in Spain, leave Spain, come to Australia and get into an Australian school or get a visa? Do you need a certain level to do that?
Not for English. If you want to study vocational training or higher education, you will have to have a previous level of English, just because obviously there are more skilled courses, and you will require to at least understand what's going on in the class. Otherwise, for English courses, you don't require any level of English or any previous level of English. We have students that come with very basic elementary level of English. Those students will more likely go into courses like general English. More experienced or people that have a little bit more higher level will try to go into more specific English courses.
Oh, brilliant. All right. So you've done that. You've organised which school you're going to go to. I don't know whether or not to touch on getting airfares to Australia. Is there any advice that you would have regarding how to get to Australia and how to save money doing so?
From Spain and Italy, we both have an agreement with, so in Spain, I think it's with Singapore Airlines and with Emirates.
Yep.
The students get a little discount from being our students. And if they go directly to the airline, they'll be able to get, so for example, Singapore Airlines will give the students the ability to, if they fly from Spain to Australia, they'll have, instead of 30 kilos of luggage, they'll be able to have 40.
Oh, wow.
So it's a little bit, they'll have a little bit of extra, room to bring personal stuff. Emirates will give them a little student discount. In terms of tips to get, I mean, there's no real formula to get it a cheap deal to come to Australia. It's very far away, so usually prices are very standard. It doesn't really vary too much.
But it's worth checking with you guys just in case, you know, that you have the option of either getting, you know, bonuses or more space to take stuff on the plane or to save a little bit of money. Oh, brilliant. All right. Okay. So you've got your flight, you get to Australia, you jump off the plane. What do you do then? Where do you live? And what are the options? And should you have organised that before getting on the plane, or is it okay to wing it and just get off the plane and you'll be sweet?
So I think both of the options are okay. A lot of students prefer organizing the first month of accommodation from Europe.
Yep.
The options usually are a little bit more expensive than if you just come into Australia and then look for other options. Usually accommodation from Europe will cost, it will include obviously family, accommodation in I can't.
living with a family, do you mean? Or?
Yeah, so family, the options are either family living within a family, so you'll sleep and live with a family, and it's included lunch, breakfast, and dinner.
Yep.
Other option is the possibility of living in a student accommodation. But usually what we do recommend students is that they get a hostel for the first 10 days, arrive here. It's the cheapest option, honestly. Come here, and then once they're here, find a better, there's heaps and heaps of pages, Facebook pages, Gumtree. There's a lot of places where you can actually then find better deals.
Is it a really good way to sort of socialize first too, to get to a hostel and meet a few other foreigners and other people traveling around, and at least sort of hit the ground running with your social life and make some friends, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's pros and cons in everything, right? Like everything in life. But, if you get accommodation from Europe and you're already organized for the first month, it's going to be a little bit easier for you to obviously come, and you're a little bit more relaxed. You don't have to think about having to find anything else.
Exactly. And you've got time to look, right? You've got time to look around and choose.
On the contrary, is a little bit more expensive than if you just come and find a hostel. My recommendation usually is just come here, for the first 10 days, get a hostel, meet a lot of new people at the hostel, socialize, start looking around. Once you arrive, start looking, especially in the school, you'll meet a lot of people and be able to find a better, accommodation.
Brilliant. And I guess you would suggest don't move in with people from your country. Like try and avoid organizing a share house or something with other Spanish speakers or Italian speakers.
Yeah. We see it a lot with, people that want to travel together. Actually, we get people that want to do the experience together, 2-3 friends, book the course, book everything together. We usually push them to go to different schools. But sometimes they'll want to go to the same school, and that's fine. Most of the schools won't put them in the same class anyway. They try to divide nationalities. So it is unlikely that even if they do come together, that they will end up in the same class. But if they do all come together, what we do recommend is that at least they try to live separately. That way, their experience will be more immersive. So it's not the same coming and living in a house full of people that you need to speak English with, otherwise you can't communicate, than being in a house with your mates from Spain and speaking in Spanish all day.
Well, not even that too. There's the language aspect, but then there's the social aspect. If you've already got a friend here or 2 friends here, you're a lot less likely to go out out and try and mingle and feel that pressure. No, good. And so what would hostels usually set you back money-wise per night? Do you have any figures off the top of your head?
I think more or less we're talking about maybe $30-$40 per night.
Yeah.
So it really depends. There's cheaper options if you share with 8 people instead of with 3 or 4. There's various options, but usually it's around, between $20 and $40 per night.
And what's it like renting in Melbourne? So you've stayed in a hostel or you've stayed with a family for a short period of time. What would the next step be then for trying to find a house? What would you suggest people do? And should they look for things like a share house, or should they try and get a house of their own, on the bond, get the bond paid and do that? Or I guess what would you suggest?
So when students arrive, what we usually recommend is that they go into all of the Facebook pages in which people are renting rooms. It depends how much the student wants to, how much they want to spend.
Yeah.
Usually in a room, if you share a room with someone else, obviously will be cheaper than if you have your own room.
And what are the prices usually, if you can list them off the top of your head, roughly?
In Melbourne, you're looking around between $150 and $200 for a shared room, $250 for your own room. Again, it depends. We have students that get really sweet deals get their own room for $170. Get students that maybe want to be more centralized in the CBD and pay a little bit more for your own room. It's also a lot of luck. What we do recommend though is unless you're going to be in Australia for a long time, and by a long time I mean a year and a half, 2 years, not going into getting an actual lease of your own.
Yeah.
It's always there's plenty of places that you can sub-rent the room.
Yeah.
And it's easier also to leave those places rather than having your own lease and having to have the hassle of having to find someone else pick up your lease where you left it.
And they're a lot less likely to give you a lease to a place if it's only 6 months. They're going to want a year, 2 years on that sort of thing. Okay, so for people who have kept up to now, schools are going to be between $200 or $300 a week, roughly,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and then rent for a house might be slightly less than that. So you're probably looking at between maybe $450 to $600 for your weekly expenses with regards to what a school's going to cost and rent's going to cost. Do you have any quick advice with regards to groceries and like food, how to find food here in Australia that's affordable, and the price that you'd look at for that as well?
So we always talk about when students arrive, we give them a little welcome package in which we give them a little bit of tips of where to do their shopping and where to find cheap stuff. In terms of groceries, here I can speak for Melbourne because that's my experience. The cheapest supermarket is Aldi, which any Spanish person will actually recognize because there are Aldis in Spain as well.
Yeah.
But other than that, usually Coles is pretty relatively cheap. We do push students to also go to actually local markets like the Queen Victoria Market or the South Melbourne Market. It's in terms of fruit and veggies, it's a cheaper option. We also try to tell them to stay within things that are in season. Yeah, so that's something that sometimes we forget living in such a globalized world, right? Where we have everything at our hand. But if you usually stay in season, in autumn you buy your mushrooms, and in summer you buy your mangoes. Usually you'll stay within a good budget.
Well, and the food's probably going to be better quality, right? It hasn't been, frozen or treated or imported from a long way away. So what would people be looking at spending for groceries on a weekly kind of budget? Maybe $100 to $200?
Yeah, I would say maybe $100, $150 per week. It also really depends how much food you eat. Yes.
That's it. And what your standards are, right?
Exactly. So, I'm very tiny and I don't eat a lot. So probably my intake is not as much as, my partner who is like double my size. So
balances out, right?
But yeah, we're talking about maybe $100, $150 per week in groceries.
Oh, brilliant. Okay.
Also depends on the city that you're in.
And so you're between maybe $600 and $750 now a week. How can we offset that by finding a job? Okay, so you've obviously had to pay for your school ahead of time, and then I guess to get the visa, you kind of have to show that you have a certain amount of money to pay for things like accommodation and support yourself. What job prospects are there for people who are studying, and what are they allowed to do in terms of hours per week, and what are they likely to be paid?
So let me just jump back at a comment that you made. So not all of the countries that come to Australia with a student visa will need to show funds.
Okay.
So countries like Spain, Italy, France, they will not have to show funds when they ask for the visa. In terms of the government, they can always ask whatever they want, obviously, so they can you still have the chance that they do ask, but usually in general terms, that's not something that you have to show. So you can have your little savings and have paid the school and not necessarily have to show any funds to the government. Countries like Colombia will need, or Brazil, they will need to show a little bit more stability.
And what sort of amount of money would they need to accrue for those Colombian and Brazilian listeners? How much would be a minimum amount of money to have saved up?
So usually we're talking about $1,600 per every month that you want to be in Australia.
Yeah.
So more or less is what we recommend.
So that's why it really does depend on how long you want to stay. It's not just there's a minimum that you need to arrive with. It's your stay, your length of time.
Exactly. And apart from that, once they come here, we'll give them all of the options towards working. So we do a lot of job sessions. So we do job sessions in Spanish and Italian and French.
Brilliant.
And we help all students with all of the process and all of the steps that they need to take towards starting to find a job. So we'll help them upon arrival also to talk about how to get the TFN and how to start their job world in Australia.
And what is a TFN quickly?
Yes, sorry. So the TFN is the tax file number, is what all students or all people in Australia will need in order to be able to work legally in Australia. Yeah.
Yep.
Once we apply for the tax file number, then we can start legally working and looking for jobs. A job will generally, depending obviously on what the kind of job and how many hours and everything, but usually a student will be able to sustain him or herself in Australia while working their 20 allowed hours per week.
Yeah.
So even if they they paid all of the school from offshore, they came and they paid all of the visa and accommodation and everything, they'll be able to pay for their everyday expenses with their job that they acquire here in Australia.
And what kind of job opportunities are there, and what is the amount of money they're likely to be paid per hour?
So usually, obviously depends, on a lot of factors, but the majority of the students end up working in hospitality. That's where the most jobs are available. Not because that's the sector where there's more jobs, but because it's the sector that is the most flexible with the student visa.
Exactly.
So we have to remember that the student visa will allow the student to work only 20 hours per week while school is in session. They will actually be able to work full time when school is not in session. So when school is in session, they'll have their 5 hours per day that they're in school during their English course, and then they'll have the rest of the day to be able to work. Obviously, that gives them roughly 20 hours per week to work. Casual working, which is what students will most likely get, pays between $20 and $23 per hour. So that should be able to cover the cost of accommodation, groceries, and a little bit of, depends on your way of life, I think.
But I think as a quick side note, I was working at a restaurant in Melbourne called Portello Rosso, which was a Spanish restaurant, and I was just a waiter while I was studying, and it was $25 an hour. Casual, flexible hours. So it is the kind of thing where you will get paid very well. And I guess too, should you make sure that you are doing it legally on the books as well, if you want to get paid the proper wage and not be taken advantage of?
Yeah. Obviously, we always warn students there's always going to be establishments that try to take advantage of the student. Generally speaking, it's pretty regulated, so I wouldn't, like anything in the world, right? You always have to be wary about things that are illegal or that take you out of the legality. But generally speaking, it's pretty regulated. We also put students in contact with a Fair Work in case they do have this problem of not getting paid or people that have been paid less than what they were supposed to. We have some success stories of people that, didn't know that they were being paid less than what they were supposed to, finding out, going to Fair Work and actually going to court and winning. So Australia, that's also one of the things that I love about Australia is that it's very regulated and that you will have the support of the government when it comes to illegality of establishments that do try to take advantage.
Well, and that's what I've experienced a bit too. I mean, I've in the past worked for establishments where they pay you what we call cash in hand, where it's off the books, it's not legal. They give you the money, but they require a certain amount of time, and they'll generally pay you less than they would if you were on the books because they're not getting taxed. So if you do end up in that sort of situation, it happens, and maybe that's your only option. But I would say if you're getting paid less than $17 an hour and they're asking you to work more hours than say you're legally allowed to be, I would be getting out of that situation and trying to find something better. And obviously they can come and talk to you at Go Study to get advice, and they can go to Fair Work too, because I think the average Australian too won't take too kindly to hearing about foreign people coming here and being taken advantage of. It's definitely something that pisses me off a lot.
Oh, me too.
And that's it. As a foreign person, don't feel like it's okay. If you feel uncomfortable about something that's happening at work or even at the English schools, I take it, don't just let it happen because of language barrier or it's a foreign country. Do definitely report it to someone.
For sure. Yeah. We always push people to actually, report everything, in the two instances. So if something is wrong at school, we always push students to actually come and talk to us. That's why we're here. We're here to help. We're here to be able to support you. And if they are thinking that they're being taken advantage at work, a lot of people have this, worry. Oh, I've been working, I've been working for 2 weeks cash in hand. I don't like it. I think that this is not what I'm supposed to do, but I don't want to report it because I'm the one that I'm working cash in hand. Actually, they're covered. Yeah, Fair Work will not tell them that they're the wrong ones. The person that is the wrong is the establishment that is paying cash in hand.
Exactly.
So in that sense, people who think that they're scared of reporting because they're working cash in hand, they shouldn't, because the wrongdoing is on the side of the establishment.
Exactly. If the government's going after anyone, it's not going to be you. It's going to be the company.
Exactly.
All right. And so you've come to Australia, you've gotten the school sorted, you've gotten housing sorted, you've got a job now. I guess, do you have anything to say with regards to resume and how to get the job? Should you go to these places and hand them the resume yourself? Can you do it online? What sort of advice would you have for students?
So we always tell students that 80% of the jobs that are available are not advertised online. Yeah, so we always push students to actually go with their CVs, go around and give them personally. We in our job sessions that we do with our students, we help them with the creation of the CVs and adapting the CVs from their European version or their home country version to the Australian version. It's a little bit different. It varies from country to country, but we try to adapt it obviously to Australian standards.
So, and what do employers here usually want to see on the resume? Because I guess one key thing is, for me at least, working and handing out resumes, keep it short and sweet, right? People don't want a novel. They don't want you to hand them something like this and be like, I'm qualified.
Yeah. So we always tell them to keep it short, keep it one page.
Yep.
In a lot of other countries, you put a picture. In Australia, you usually don't include a picture.
Especially if you've walked in there yourself, obviously.
Especially, yes. And another big thing is making sure that the jobs that you're listing are things that will make sense with the job. So one of the most common things that as international students we hear when people grab our resumes, because we're, used to from Spain or Italy to put it on, is you are all overqualified for this job. So we tend to write everything that we've done and everything that we studied. So I'll say, I have a master's degree in this and a bachelor degree in that, and I worked in United Nations. And then when they actually look at your CV and you're applying for a waitress position, they'll say, okay, well, you're overqualified. Why is someone that worked at the UN want to work in as a waitress? So we always make sure that the student puts only the work that is related to the position that they're asking
and that's
for.
a really good point, because that happens with us as well, with Australians here. I have to be careful when I went for jobs like that not to oversell myself, because if they see that you've got, a master's degree and a bachelor's degree and you're wanting to do, waiting, they're going to be like, this guy's going to get bored. He's going to probably want a better job that pays more. So he's not going to stay here. He's going to leave a few months after starting. And so, only put down the work that's relevant to that job. Oh, great. And so what are the opportunities though too? Are you likely to get, once you've finished the English school, are there places that you can get jobs where it could lead to permanent residency or living in Australia too? And are there jobs that people should try and aim for if that's their goal, as opposed to just working in a cafe? Or
so there's many different possibilities, right? A lot of people will come to Australia, love and want to stay further. The best way, obviously, to stay further after, let's say, having been studying for 6 months, it's going into vocational training. So studying something that will increase your CV, will increase your knowledge, will still be able to give you a little bit more time to be in Australia and find a more qualified job. If the goal is to migrate to Australia, that is a conversation that should be done with a migration agent. There's obviously certain jobs or certain fields in which it is more likely to get sponsored, or jobs that are more likely to lead to a longer stay in Australia. But again, that is something that needs to be discussed with a migration agent.
And that's going to depend on you, right? That's going to be a person by person kind of thing.
And not only that, it also depends on a lot of luck. So we have a lot of students that might come here for 6 months, do an interview for a part-time job in a, let's say, architect studio, and have the luck that they were trying to sponsor, or that they really love the way you work, or for whatever reason, you land a sponsorship within 6 months of being here. And I have students that have been here for 4 years studying, and have never landed anything more permanent. So it really also depends on how you move yourself around.
Well, that's it. I think a good example of that for me was having a friend who I worked with at the restaurant at Portela Rosso, who was Chilean. She'd come to Australia with her boyfriend, who was studying at university on a partner visa, but she ended up becoming a shared manager of this restaurant. And then as a result of that, so she'd worked as a waitress and then got sort of promoted to managing, and through managing they could sponsor her then to permanently, live in Australia potentially, at least for the next 4 years. And so that's something to think about too. When you get one of these jobs in a cafe, you may still be able to climb the ladder and get an important role that they could then sponsor you for to keep you in Australia.
Now, one of the biggest tips that can be given to a student who comes to Australia and maybe likes or wants to stay is to remember that they can move diagonally within their sector. So that even if they did study microbiology in their home country, maybe they come here and they start working in a restaurant.
Yep.
If their goal is to be able to stay here, maybe they'll have to sort of explore the possibility of, going towards a restaurant manager or move diagonally towards a different goal than what they thought that they wanted to do.
And so what have you found with students who have come to Australia and they've done these English courses, they've gotten their English to a really good level, they've gotten a decent job like this, what tend to be the outcomes after that? Do they end up, getting hired, getting PR here, migrating to Australia or traveling Australia, or do they end up leaving Australia? What tends to be the patterns of what happens to these students?
It really actually is interesting because it really depends on, and this is very broadly speaking, but it depends a lot on nationalities. So different nationalities will look for different outcomes for them in Australia. So generally speaking, for example, the Spanish student will look to have an experience here in Australia, will be here for generally a year, 2 years, and then they'll go back home. Italian, on the contrary, will come here and will try to stay here forever and ever. So it really depends, right, on where they come from, what their goals are. Generally speaking, let's say the lifespan of a student will start with English, go into vocational training, and once they've done vocational training, it sort of splits in two. So one side of the population, let's say, or of the students, will try to find either sponsorship or skill migration visas or partner visas, or stay without furthering their studies.
Yeah.
The other part will try to do something like master's degree and spend a little bit more time pursuing a career and furthering their knowledge.
Oh, brilliant. So that's a good segue too. Okay, you've come here, you've enrolled initially into an English course because you had zero English, or you had, a little bit of English. You've gotten it to fluent and you can communicate. What are the options and what should you do once that first course finishes?
So, once the first course, let's say that the first course is the English course, the best way or the easiest way to be able to stay in Australia and further your career is, like I said, going into VET courses. So VET courses are vocational training courses, and those courses will be able to give a little bit extra push in what you've already studied. So usually are things like business and management, or leadership and management courses, business, marketing and communication. So it's things that will give extra skills to the student. Those courses generally are, let's say, more specific, and will give a little bit extra to the student, but might not necessarily mean that will open PR opportunities.
So do you kind of have to hunt for those yourself to some degree? It's a little more on you to try and find certain jobs or opportunities with companies in order to try and get PR?
So in order to, if a student's goal is to get PR, again, they need to sit down with a migration lawyer. They'll be able to actually sit down, look at what you've done home, what you have been doing here, what your career looks like, and be able to guide you and say, okay, look, perfect. You've been an architect. Look, they're looking for architects in rural Australia. Your best option is to go and try to work in Adelaide, for example, for 2 years, and that will be able to give you a little bit more opportunities.
So is that something too that you should have in mind when you get here? A year early. Just realize that it may not be that you just get to decide, I want to go to Melbourne, I want to live in Melbourne, I want to get PR and citizenship here. You need to be open to moving around Australia, doing different jobs, at least in the short term, before those things are likely to happen.
Definitely. If the goal is to try to migrate permanently, obviously keep an open mind in being able to find your place wherever is needed, right? But the best thing that we can do, and students can come here, and I'll be more than happy to give them options in migration lawyers that we work with.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. How do they get in touch with these people?
So usually we recommend iMigration. They are our preferred partner, but there's plenty of partners all around Australia that obviously cater to international students. If students go to iMigration and say that they've come through Go Study, or they're learned from coming to the office or from this interview, they'll be able to get a little discount on the first consultation. But we would definitely push students that if their goal is to move permanently to Australia, they need to speak to a qualified migration agent.
Oh, brilliant. And I guess before we sort of finish up, because you've given us so much good information here, I can't wait to get it out there, but what's your experience been, and I guess reported experiences from other people in all the different cities in Australia? Are there places that you would recommend going or trying first or not going? How have you found it?
So, again, there's so many people in the world that it depends a lot on what you're looking for, right? In terms of choosing your destination, I would definitely, see what it is that what the goal is. So, for example, if it is very important for a student to be able to work, to sustain themselves, I would push them to come to Melbourne. Melbourne for right now is the best city to come to be able to actually work and sustain yourself while you're studying. There isn't a lot of competition per se with other international students, so all of our students right now are working. If you're looking to have an experience a little bit more towards what is sold to us from offshore of beaches and surfing, I'd probably go up to Queensland, not Melbourne. Yeah.
You're going to be about an hour and a half away from any decent beach in Melbourne.
Exactly. But if they want to have sort of that experience of, look, maybe the job is not as important, but what I want is having a good surfing experience and having a great Australian, how we see it in TV, let's say, I would go up to Queensland.
Yeah.
But from all the cities that I've been, obviously I haven't been in all of the cities of Australia, but from my experience, all of the students that come to Melbourne usually have the most complete experience, in terms of their Australian experience.
So would you even just suggest start here and, because you can move cities, I take it. And
yes.
if they want to move English schools too, is that a possibility?
Yeah, so a lot of schools actually have campuses in various cities. I would also probably recommend come in Melbourne, start your experience in Melbourne maybe in summer, and then move towards, in winter, move towards other destinations. You can definitely, already plan your trip or your stay in Australia like that. A lot of students do 3 months in one city, 3 months in another, experience both cities and have a little bit more of an overall experience.
And so are there any places you should stay away from, not necessarily because they're bad, but because you will have fewer opportunities to get a decent school or to get work or to get accommodation?
Not necessarily. Smaller cities obviously will have less job opportunities. So for example, when we talk about a student that really, really needs to be able to find a job quickly to be able to sustain themselves in Australia, I probably wouldn't recommend them to go to Gold Coast in winter.
Yeah.
Gold Coast in winter, there won't be a lot of opportunities. Yeah. There's not a lot of jobs. Gold Coast in summer, yes, lots of opportunities.
Lots of tourists, lots of jobs.
Lot of stuff to do and probably be able to find a job. So there isn't anything that you would be that I would steer off.
Yeah.
In any city, you'd be able to find a decent school. And decent opportunities.
I guess a good point to make there, a good anecdote is my girlfriend came to Australia maybe 2.5 years ago, and she went straight to Townsville, which is an isolated small town. I think it's like 200,000 people in northern Queensland, and she couldn't find a job for a year. So she had enough money to support herself, and she was studying, but she couldn't find a decent job for a year. But the good thing was she did all this volunteer work. So for people who can't find a job, and if you're seeing the job as a way of interacting with native speakers, I'm sure that you'll be able to find, a plethora of volunteering opportunities if you want to work with animals or people or, events that you will still enable you to practice your English. And that was how she did it. For the first year, I think she was doing school, but then she was also just volunteering all the time, and it really took her English up. And then after that, actually, she got all these references from the volunteer places that helped her get a really good job. So there's opportunities there, guys. You
everywhere.
just have to go hunting. Awesome. No worries. Well, Lorena from Go Study Australia, thank you so much. How can people find out more about Go Study Australia and get in contact with you guys?
Yeah, you guys can go to our website at gostudy.com.au. You can find us on Facebook. You can add me on my personal Facebook profile.
Yep.
If you're offshore, if you're in Italy, France, or Spain, you can go to our offices there. If you're here in Australia, Melbourne, Sydney, Perth, or Brisbane, you can stop by, or if you need anything, you can just contact us online.
Oh, brilliant. And I guess that's the biggest takeaway, guys. Don't do this alone. Contact places like Go Study Australia and get help. If you have questions, if they can't help you, they're going to let you know, but you're not going to know unless you ask.
If you don't ask.
Exactly. Yeah. So awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Much. No, thank you, Pete.
No, my pleasure. We'll have to do this again soon. And I guess if you guys have any questions that we didn't cover in today's interview, make sure to put them below wherever you're watching this or listening to this. And hopefully I can get Lorena on here again in the future and ask her those questions. So cheers, guys. See you soon.
Bye.
All right, guys, so I hope you enjoy that interview. Remember that if you would like any kind of help or advice with regards to studying English in Australia, finding accommodation, finding a job, make sure that you contact Go Study Australia, guys, okay? Big thanks to Lorena. I'm going to try and get her again on the podcast and interview her about some other things with regards to coming to Australia and studying here. So if you guys have any kinds of questions that you would like me to ask her specifically next time, make sure that you email me them or comment them on this episode of the podcast. Just get in contact with me and let me know what more I can do to get you information from Go Study Australia or from Lorena. Anyway, thanks for joining me today, guys. I really appreciate it, and I'll chat to you soon. See ya.